Hello and welcome, everybody. I'm starting another program in the series devoted to simplified transcription for Polish users, especially tourists. And my guests are Dr. Ronald Ti and Mr. Mateusz Baster. Please, my guests, say a few words about yourselves, what your occupation is, what your hobbies are, how are you linked, how you're linked with the language, with linguistic domain. Mr.
Oh,
T,
well,
please start.
okay, I'll start. Well, I'm my ancestry is Malaysian, but I've grown up in Australia, so English is really my first language. Not really, it is my first language. I'm a native English speaker. Grew up in Australia. Been living in Tarnów now for 11 years. My wife's Polish, and yeah, I just completed a PhD at King's College London in military logistics. So I'll stop there. Otherwise, I'll go on. You're mainly after my English, which is very Australian.
Right, thank you. Mateusz, say a few words about yourself, about your profile of your studies, and of course, introductory words about your project. What's it about?
So I'm the third year student at the University of Applied Sciences here in Tarnów. My specialty in the philology, English philology, is about mediation in business and administration. And the idea for writing this thesis about phonetics, I think that it's started from the first year that I was here. And when I had classes with Dr. Nowrowski about phonetics, and I thought that they were really interesting, and I knew that I wanted to write my thesis about phonetics somehow. And when it comes to the specifics and picking Australian place names, I think that there is a lack of information for Polish students and tourists that want to either talk or visit Australia and want to communicate about travel with native speakers. And I think it is really difficult for them to properly communicate without actually being able to pronounce some of these difficult geographical names.
Good stuff.
Even with minimum communicative skills, it's sometimes enough just to point at a place and name it. And if you mispronounce at this point, you're lost. Even if there's no other communication, just want to go somewhere and people won't understand what you're saying. Mateusz, please proceed with your questionnaire with a couple of questions you would like to ask related to this field of phonetics and accents.
So to start, where in Australia are you from? And would you say that your accent is typical of that region?
Okay, good. Good questions to start off with, Mateusz. I've lived most of my life in Melbourne in Australia, but because I was in the Australian Army, I moved around Australia a lot. So I also lived in Queensland, in Northern Australia, and currently I've got a home in Hobart in Tasmania to the south. I would say that it's very difficult to talk about a typical Australian accent. My accent is very Australian. If you're, an English speaker from England, Scotland, or Ireland, they pick it up within less than a second. I have to say that having lived in Poland now for my 11th year and doing a lot of teaching to non-English speaking military officers, I think my accent has toned down a lot. And I think I speak a lot more clearly than average Australians, whatever the average Australian is. The accent is often a function of location, whether you live in the city or the country, and it's often a function of social class, with people in the high classes in Australia, white collar workers, professional people speaking a lot more clearly than people who are blue collar workers, in service industries or the like.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you. Do you think that Australian English varies a lot between regions? So, for example, you said that you lived in Melbourne and Queensland and now Tasmania. So, or is it relatively uniform?
That's a really interesting question, Mateusz. Australia's only been a country just a little over 200 years. Even though it's a very big geographical country, it's actually quite a small nation. There's only 21 million people in Australia, so it's the same population as Belgium, I think, if memory serves me right. Maybe not actually. Um, but in my opinion, there's not a lot of variation between states. There are certain nuances. I was thinking about this today. Certain nuances when for people who come from South Australia or Western Australia, but I can't even explain what they are to you. But if I hear a South Australian and Western Australian, I can probably tell they're from there. There's not a great regional variation in pronunciation, and there's not a great regional variation in slang. There are certain words that people use in one state and not the other, but they're really not enough to categorize the different areas. I think that's really all I can say about the accents. I was going to say that Australia's only been around a little over 200 years, so there's been insufficient time for accents to evolve. However, having said that, the United States technically has been around a little over 200 years as well. And we all know in the USA, there's a great variation in regional accents. Although I'm not going to speculate here about why that is. The size of the population may be a factor there because Australia's always had a very small population. And in America, I don't know, are there 150 million people? I'm not really sure. But I think there's been sufficient mass of people. And I think there's been sufficient spread of population for the regional variations to evolve in the USA. That's my inexpert opinion. Because in Australia, the population is clustered around 7 really major urban areas, and most of Australia is marginally inhabitable. So the popular conception of the middle of Australia being a desert is essentially true. It's a very arid region that's unsuitable for agriculture. So just about all the population clusters on the eastern seaboard. So I'm getting away from your question, but I think for those reasons, there's very little variation.
Okay. Do you believe that foreigners should aspire to learn the proper Australian pronunciation of geographical place names?
Yes, as Dr. Navrotsky said, it's not essential. I mean, people are quite friendly in Australia. That they have in general, a helpful attitude to tourists. So, as you said, if you just point it out on your guidebook or a map, that's sufficient. I think the issues might come if you're listening to a destination over a train loudspeaker in a station, for instance, or you're trying to talk to someone on the telephone where you only have 10%. You've only got auditory cues. You lack the 90% of physical cues. I think it is important, but not essential.
Okay. What are some typical features of Australian pronunciation that foreigners might find surprising?
Okay. It's said that Australians don't open their mouth very much. My pronunciation's not typically Australian because I open my mouth a lot. But if you talk like Australian, you talk the side of your mouth like that. That's generally how people talk because they really mumble under their and then they hardly open their mouths. So there's a lot of mumbling. I think there's an equivalent in Poland. I find Polish almost impossible to understand unless people speak at this speed. I find that Poles tend to merge their uh, phrases into one, so it's incomprehensible to me. And I think this would be the issue with most Polish people who are, don't have like C2 level understanding of English going to Australia. And Australians speak at a normal speed, which is fast if you're a beginner. They don't open their mouths very much and they mumble, and it tends to be a bit of a monotone. So the Australian accent is quite monotonous and can be difficult to make out.
Okay. Are there specific vowel sounds in Australian English that are very different from British or American English?
Well, I guess I would say to you, Mateusz, British and American English is what we know. What is British English? Is it English that's spoken in Oxford? Is it English that's spoken in East London? Is it English that's spoken in Newcastle by Geordies? So I think Australians do have a distinct tone. You might be able to hear it in my voice. It's a quite flat nasal tone. Uh, it's not a crisp nasal tone like the English. It's not one where you can discern the individual words. It's a very nasal tone, so you can't talk at a one tone like that. And it doesn't tend to go up and down in any sing-song sort of lilt like Irish people,
Mm,
or a lot of English people. It's quite monotonous. So I would say that'd be the main thing. The other thing about Australian English, that vowel sounds tend to be elongated. So whereas in English might say the main feature is this, you would go, the main feature is this. It's the main, and
mm,
I remain, and they kind of tend to stretch the vowels out a little bit, so it can be a little bit of a lazy pronunciation.
mm. Okay. Have you ever experienced misunderstanding because of your accents, either in
In,
Australia or abroad?
Absolutely. Um, okay. Yes, I have experienced misunderstanding of my accent in non-English speaking countries, because I don't speak Oxford English. That's very clipped, clear English that you see on television about the English upper class. So I have had problems with that. Um, Amongst English speakers, yeah, it does, yeah, it does cause problems. There's a joke about, yeah, it's not a very funny joke, but it talks about the Australian pronunciation, where some soldiers are lined up and the commander, who's not Australian, says, I have to let you know, it's a dangerous mission and you've all come here to die. And the response from the Australians, we didn't come here today, we came here yesterday. So that's the joke. It's just the way that you've come here to die. No, it's not today, it's yesterday. That's where I'm not even sure what the term for that is, a synonym or a homonym, but that's again that long drawn out nasal Australian vowel. It's a very nasally tone. So I think the air kind of goes through your mouth, but also a bit through your nose as well, and it flattens the meaning of this. It flattens the pronunciation of the vowel.
Okay. Uh, do Australian place names often get mispronounced by visitors? And could you give some
Absolutely.
examples?
Yes. Americans say Melbourne because that's how it's spelt, but it's Melbourne.
Mm,
They'll often say Sydney, but it's Sydney. They'll say Brisbane because that's the way it's spelt. It's Brisbane. It's the same depressing pattern of English where you can't know from the word how it's pronounced.
mm,
Sidebar, one of the things I really like about German and Polish is if you learn a few basic rules, it's quite easy to pronounce. Like Poles are always going to me about, oh, it must be so difficult saying these S's and Z's. But if you learn a few basic rules, you can actually pronounce any Polish word by looking at it.
mm,
This one they try and throw at you about some buzzer buzzing in the reeds, and suggestion is, I can't even say it, but the point is you can actually say that with a bit of practice. But in English, you can't tell what the words are, and with the place names, you can't tell what they are either. So yeah, the answer is yes.
okay. Have you ever had trouble understanding someone because of their accent? For example, British or American, or even
I've
European,
trouble,
someone who learns it
Mateusz, I've
in a
trouble
second.
understanding my wife's accent, and she's been living in Australia for over 30 years, mate. So yes, um, I have had a lot of trouble understanding American and British accents. So I give lectures to the US Department of War, and if the question comes to me over the internet from someone from the southern states, I have to listen very hard to tune my ear into what they're saying. I've served with Scottish soldiers in Iraq, and Scottish pronunciation is quite difficult to understand. You
Mm,
find yourself talking like the village idiot, saying what or what did you say all the time, and then after a while they think you're a bit hard of hearing. But it's the way the Scots pronounce the letters is incomprehensible. And the further north you go in England, generally, the less comprehensible it is. I've also lived and worked in the Caribbean, and people from Jamaica and the West Indies, incomprehensible, can't understand a word they say, and they're speaking English.
Okay. Those were all questions from me. So now I will give the voice to Dr. Nawrocki.
Right, thank you for your questions and answers. Very interesting insight into reality from the native speaker's perspective. And I will display a list of 15 names, Australian names. I will share my screen with you in a moment.
Okay.
Right, it's almost ready.
So what happens if I fail this test? Do I have to go back to Australia?
I'll tell you what the principle is in a second, because I will be reading 2 versions of each name, following the transcriptions that Mateusz is proposing in his project. And each form will be pronounced with a heavy Polish accent, but one of them is better than the other. So
Okay.
I would like you to say A or B, which is better, or B1, B2, because in three cases there are 2 versions in a single column. So I will always say B1, B2, so that you know which I mean.
Okay.
And the versions are jumbled. I'll display the results when we have finished. And what I will observe will be word accent. Word stress will be what I will strictly observe. So I do not assume that mispronunciations would involve word stress, because that would be complicating the reality even further.
Okay.
So I will say number 1 for the name, and then form A, form B.
Okay.
And be patient, because my accent's gonna turn pretty much Polish.
That's okay. You've been all over. You've been actually all over
We'll
Australia.
be looking at whatever compromises can be made, and whatever the preferable version is. Not never too perfect, but preferable. All right. Number 1, A, Darling Harbour. B, Darling Harbour.
Can I say neither?
Listen again. Which is more tolerable?
Okay,
if it's not preferable, it will be tolerable. More tolerable, because that's we are lowering
no,
the
B.
All right.
Yes.
Next, number 2, form A, Melbourne. Form B, Melbourne.
Oh, B.
Good. Number 3, A, Arampo. B, Arampo.
Oh, B.
All right. I will try again. This number 3 once again, just to make sure. A, Arampo. B, Arampo.
Oh, A. Sorry.
Good. Number 4, A, Burg. B, Berg.
Oh, B.
Number 5, A, Cronulla. B, Cronulla.
Oh, A.
All right. I'll just keep marking not to forget what's being chosen. Right. We are coming to number 6. A, Griffith. B, Griffiths. B2, Griffith.
Oh, A.
5, A, Geraldon. B, Geraldine.
B, but you just said number 5. That's number 7.
All right, number 7. I should say it once again then. 7, A, Geraldon. B, Geraldine.
B.
8, A, Mayo Lake. B, Maya Lake.
Oh, A.
9, A, Tamworth. B1, Tamworth. B2, Tamworth.
Not much between them, Jegos. I'll go for B2.
B2. Right.
Yep.
I will try again going through the whole line number 9. A. Tamworth. B1. Tamworth. B2. Tamworth.
Okay, now I'll go for A that time.
Right. Number 10. A. Woljit. B. Wojit.
A. Pretty terrible though.
All right, I'll try again 10 to make sure. A. Woljit. B. Wojit.
It's actually pronounced Walgett.
All right. So
So
I will.
would be on Walgut
All right.
Walgut.
So
It's
I
like a
will.
on.
All right. So the underlying form was wrong. I will modify it and read it accordingly with parallel forms that are similar to the previous ones, but the G will be hard G. All right.
Yep.
So I'm
Yep.
trying once again. So coming back to number 10, A. Wolget. B. Woget.
Walgett. Walgett. B.
B. Right. 11. A. Aubrey. B. Olbury.
No, A.
12. A1. Brazen. AB. Braden. B. Bravin.
Yeah, none of it's actually pronounced Bruthen.
All right, so we will modify it accordingly. All right. All right, now I've got the parallel forms, but with the changed vowel. Once again, 12, 1A, Brusen, A2, Bruten, B, Brufen.
B. Bruthen.
Good. Right, it's ticked now. 13, A, Licola, B, Licola.
Yeah, B's closer. It's actually pronounced Licola. So B.
14, A, Mildura, B, Mildura.
B. It's actually pronounced Mildura.
Right, and the last one, A, Dumaji, B, Dumaji.
B's closer. It's actually pronounced Dumaji, which is pretty close to your B.
B, all right. So I will display the answers. In the second slide, I will color the chosen versions. And I will have some extra questions. So here it was this one that you chose. Here it was that one.
Geraldine.
That one. That one. That one. That one. That one. That one. That was number 9. It's this one.
Tamworth. Okay,
we modified number 10, so I'll have to correct this in our script because it was G hard G, not soft J, but still it went this way. Okay. It went this way anyway. Then it was 11. 11 was here. Brufen was the version we chose. I also corrected it, but it was a B. And then Licola, right? And Mildura was the last one.
Just with a quick, there is a T sound in Bruthen. It's not Brufen like a Londoner would say. There is a T sound there, so it's Bruthen.
Yes, because I made corrections on my sheet of paper on the side here. So for number 12, I had to correct it. We can't see 15. I think I will not be able to minimize the screen further, but I can modify. I can modify the size of
Dumaji,
font.
yep. Dumaji.
Yeah.
Dumaji.
So you actually chose A, but I will try minimizing.
Dumaji. It's Dumaji. The ooh, yeah, the Dumaji. It should be Dumaji, which is the first one. Interesting, interesting project. This.
All right, All right. So still we can't see Dumaji, but you went for A actually. So this ordered form shows us the proposed transcriptions that are included in Mateusz's project, and these were the ones you went for, Dr. T. So our proposals are always more optimal than the naive versions, which are column A. But I've got 4 further experimental questions concerning 4 names where I would stretch the pronunciation towards local. And how do you feel about such forms for number 1? For number 1, I have produced a form that we can't see here on the screen. I've got it in my notes. Darlin Harbour.
Now you've got to pronounce the G.
But I'm in number 1. All right, G is a problem if you want to simplify it in Polish, because n sound is nowhere to be found in Polish. So you either leave the G or you drop it. So if I say Darlin Harbour, does it sound better than the versions that I produced earlier? Darlin Harbour.
Neither have got the G. It's got to have a G.
It's got to have a G. So if I say Darling Harbour.
Okay, yeah, Darling Harbour. It's a little almost like pronouncing Krakow as Krakow.
Right.
Yeah, where's that?
So it's hard to handle NG.
It is. Darling.
Right. Yes, because
hang on. How do you say engineer? Inge. No, it's not a G, is it?
Yeah, but do you mean English version or Polish?
No, I'm getting confused with German. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
But then there's 3 more experimental versions. What do you think of number 2 pronounced as Melbourne or Melbourne?
Melbourne is actually closer.
So if we went for a form that would further move towards Australian, we would have to drop the R and still make it smoother. So I will add this experimental version here.
Yep.
But we aren't going to get that far. Let me write it in the middle here. So the form I experimented with was this one. Polish graphemes, of course. Melbourne.
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 Melbourne. That's the
Melbourne.
Right. I think that's pretty good. Melbourne.
What about number 8 experimentally pronounced as moju like?
It's mile.
Right, I see the point.
Mile.
So that would be good. What about number 9? That experimentally would be rendered as Tamworth.
Tamworth. It's not bad. It's actually Tamworth.
Right. So if so that's 2 experimental forms that make some sense.
It's almost a
So something like that.
Yeah, I was thinking
Tamworth.
L with the line through it.
Yeah.
Y.
Yes.
And F. Yeah, Tamworth.
Yes. Tamworth. So it would be possible to explore this ground, but there are certain barriers that are difficult to cross, like the G in Darling. So our forms in yellow are the most probable, and they are definitely located around standard English rather than Australian accent. How would you feel, foreigners, visitors, how would you feel about them if they had little English and pronounced local names with a good Australian accent? How would you feel about it?
It's not so much them having a good Australian accent. It's pronouncing the place name the way a local pronounces it, so it's understandable.
Right. So you wouldn't be confused with a foreigner actually getting close to the original local form.
No, you could make it out. If they said Mile Lake, you go, oh yes, Mile Lake, or Melbourne. Yeah, Melbourne. Yeah, you'd make it out.
Right. So with Melbourne, it's something to achieve, or if you say Brisbane this way,
It's the same, yeah.
it's actually almost the
Brisbane.
same.
Yes, even though it's spelled Brna, Brisbane.
Right. So actually Brisbane sounds reasonable. Sydney is pretty easy to render in Polish.
Sydney, Sydney. It's almost like a N Kreskovana, N-I, Sydney. That's it, yeah.
Right. Sydney.
Sydney,
Right. And
Sydney,
also,
yeah.
if you went for Canberra,
Canberra.
you'd rather go for air. That's the local. That's an Australian
Yeah,
version with air.
It's got to be an air. I don't know how you do that in
Canberra.
Canberra.
But
Canberra. It's almost like, Anna, the Polish name Anna, where you say Anna. With Canberra, it's almost like you've got to put two R's there. Canberra. Anna, Canberra. Not Canberra.
double R.
Canberra, yeah.
Canberra. Right. So this is like stretching it further towards Australian English, especially if we put instead of R. But if we keep R instead of like in Tamworth, it sounds right. But it's impossible to render length in Polish because writing double E double A, you would start kind of changing intonation, like saying ah or because for Poles double A has no value. Double A, double E. So we have a barrier here as far as vowel length. We can't render it easily.
Yeah, I can't think of, in my limited knowledge of Polish, I can't think of an air sound in any word.
Right. This is just letter E, but it's too short or too open. Right.
No. If you say canapé, no, it's canapa. No,
Yeah,
canapé is French. Yeah, can't help you.
So the yellow, summing up, the yellow version that was used in the test is pretty tolerable. Experimenting with the names towards Australian English is risky because we can't get into the actual sounds sometimes, the vowels are. So that would be difficult, although in certain words it would work, like Melbourne, Brisbane, Sydney. Right. So you wouldn't be confused with foreigners, newcomers, who actually are capable of saying a name, a local name with a reasonably good Australian English. You wouldn't be put off or confused by a foreigner coming from nowhere and saying things like whatever.
Americans say Melbourne and Sydney all the time. We expect them to mispronounce it.
So we can only wish good luck to Polish tourists, whoever get hold of this glossary, and do it best they can, not to get lost in Australia in the outback.
Yeah, and then run out of water and die.
Yeah. We're also thinking about two aspects of Australian English. Actually, one of them with Mateusz today, because we have office hours devoted to projects. Think about Australian TD between vowels. So when you say Peter in Australian, we would say Pira, Pira. So that would be Polish P-I-R-A, Pira, water.
Pizza, but it should be pizza.
Yeah, don't because I remember a Polish student, extramural student who'd spent quite a time in Australia, and he experimented with the accent pretty well. And he said when we were reading a list of words with Peter in the list, he said Peter, Peter, and I thought, oh yeah, he got the accent right, but it may not be true of all accents on the continent of Australia. The T between vowels is that a sound, Peter.
Yeah, but pizza
Letter,
is that.
letter.
But that's an
Right.
Italian.
But
That's
when
an
you say
Italian pronunciation of a pizza.
but when you say pizza, I mean Peter, the name
Or
Peter.
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 That's what
Peter.
that was what I meant. Peter and letter. Peter,
Depends.
rice,
You
letter.
can also say Pete. You can say Peter or
Right.
letter. Letter.
So it's free
Just the letter.
variation simply. But
Yeah.
the most casual one is Peter
Peter or Pete.
or Pete with final T is a different thing.
Pete.
And so any step further towards local Australian accent is always a risk because our graphemes cannot handle it. And you would be happy with just hearing the standardized version, standard English version, which is the yellow
Look,
forms.
the highest mountain in Australia is Mount Kosciuszko, right? Australians can't handle Polish. It should be Kosciuszko, sorry, but we say Kosciuszko. And for Strzelecki, we say Strzelecki.
But based on the spelling, though, because all the troubles come from mishandling the spelling. If there was a simplified, respelled form, we could get a step further. Whether we respell it in Polish, like the glossary we've seen here, or whether you respell Polish stuff that Australian names of Polish origin, if you respell them using English spellings. Koshi, Koshi with an
Yeah,
SH, Koshi and
but
Ushko with double L and SH.
I
Ushko.
think Strzelecki is pretty challenging for most
Challenging.
English speakers.
Beginning is hard.
And the TRZ, the Strzelecki, and then you've got to do the Letsky. Anyway, you're Polish. You're experts at this.
Yeah, there are certain moments we can't just handle it, and you have to reach a compromise. And the yellow forms also included certain compromising elements that made it only tolerable.
I think what you guys are doing is fascinating. Mateusz, it sounds like you're onto an interesting thing here with a great teacher. So yeah, I wish you well.
Thank you. Thank you guys for your participation, for your time that you devoted to this interview and the testing, and good luck to Mateusz, and good luck in your career, Dr. T.